A warm welcome to all for the IBC Bangalore debate talk. This talk is about Krishna, whether Krishna is a history or a myth. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jijit Nadumuri Devi. I currently work as a creative director in Wipro. I have created a website named Ancient Voice. It contains around 23,000 pages dedicated to Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vishnu Purana and the Vedas. It's an information network containing more than 70,000 nouns analyzed and wikified. And it serves as a reference site like Wikipedia for topics related to Vedas, Itihasas and Puranas. All of this is in English. Currently I am working to extend the site to Sanskrit original of Mahabharata. Let us start with an introduction. So in this 1 hour talk, we will discuss about the popular understanding of Krishna, what common people understand, knows about Krishna, and we will also explore what the scholars are talking about Krishna. And here we look at the literary evidence, archaeological evidence, then the historicity of Yadavas, Krishna's Dwaraka, dating of Kurukshetra War, then the Nagas, Yadus and Purus in the Sindhu Sarasvati culture, Dwaraka and its relationship, Manu's Flood, Markandeya Yuga and archaeology. And we'll also explore Krishna's personality, whether it is causing any problem in defining the historicity of Krishna. And I also try to answer some of the misconceptions about Krishna's personality and his historicity. And then we'll conclude the talk. Okay, popular understanding of Krishna. So what common people knows about Krishna? So the most important thing that they talk is that Krishna is a human incarnation, an avatar of supreme deity Vishnu. Krishna was the son of Vasudeva and Devaki and was born in a prison house in Mathura. Krishna was raised by Nandakova and Yashoda as their own son. Krishna was a lovely, naughty kid who stole butter. All the Gopikas in Vrindavan loved the company of Krishna and wanted to do Ras Leela dance with him. Krishna stole the dress of Gopikas while they were bathing. Krishna ended the corrupt rule of his uncle Kamsa in Mathura and freed his parents from prison. That's something remarkable. Then people also know that Krishna was a friend of Arjuna. Krishna had 16,108 wives. Radha was Krishna's lover. Krishna saved Draupadi from Dushasan when he attempted to disrobe her in the midst of the Kuru court. Krishna was the chariot driver of Arjuna in Kurukshetra War. Krishna imparted the essence of Vedanta and Karma Yoga to Arjuna in the battlefield, which is known as Bhagavat Gita. And some also knows that Krishna was a yogi. So some of these things, they say these are like a lot of important things, like saving Draupadi from Dushasan and the Bhagavad Gita. That was something of significance. But all of a sudden we see the man becoming a chariot driver of Arjuna. And there are a lot of people who find it difficult to understand or acknowledge that Krishna did all these activities with Gopikas, stealing their dress and all this naughtiness that Krishna is having. And they have a kind of problem understanding Krishna as how can this naughty person in his childhood can become somebody who can author or talk all the high philosophies in Bhagavad Gita. So we shall try to answer these in the end of our talk. Yeah, here I am listing some of the popular questions and confusions about Krishna, and we shall try to answer it at the end of the discussion. So first one is Krishna is an avatar of God. How can he be historical? Then since Krishna is a human, how can he be worshipped as a god? Is Krishna's contact with Gopikas correct? Krishna had a lot of 16,108 wives. How is it possible? Is it right? Why did Krishna, who stole the dress of Gopikas, choose to help Draupadi by covering her body with dress? Krishna was a naughty prankster in his childhood and teenage, but he is revealed as a great philosopher imparting Bhagavat Gita. How is it possible? Krishna is mentioned as doing many magical things in childhood, like lifting the golden mountain. Hence, how can such a person be ever historical? Let us now talk about the scholar's understanding of Krishna. So, starting with literary evidence, Krishna's full name was Vasudeva Krishna Yadava, belonging to the Vrishni branch of the Yadavas. And you can see Chandogya Upanishad, that which is older than 600 BC, mentions Vasudeva Krishna, the son of Devaki and disciple of Ghora Angirasa. And this Ghora Angirasa taught Krishna the philosophy of Chandogya, which is reflected in Bhagavad Gita. So he was not just a prankster child, a naughty child, he was also a serious student of philosophy, and Angirasa has taught him in a very young age. Then you come to know that Shatapada Brahmana and the 8th Ray Aranyaka confirms Krishna belongs to the Vrishni lineage, and all of us know about Megasthenes, and he mentions about Krishna as Heracles, and which is a Greek rendering of Hari Krishna in his book Indica. And a lot of us mostly have a lot of admiration for whatever Greeks have told, and less on whatever is available in Sanskrit text. He was a Greek ethnographer and an ambassador of Seleucus to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. And Megasthenes also is mentioning about other things related to Krishna, like his kingdom, Surasena. All of this with a different rendering, because Greeks cannot pronounce all of this correctly. Mathura, and also he talks about Yamuna as Jabores, Mathura as Mathura, Krishnapura, that is he calls it Klesobora, which is an alternate name from Vrindavan. Then you also comes to know that when Alexander confronted Puru, which the Greeks mention as Porus, the soldiers of Puru held with them images of Krishna. The oldest text describing Krishna is obviously Mahabharata, with its score dated to around 1600 BC, based on the studies of S.R. Rao. Mahabharata contains the life of Krishna since the time he met the Pandavas and Panchali. It doesn't contain the childhood life of Krishna. And the childhood life of Krishna is mentioned in the triad, that is the Harivamsha, Vishnu Purana and Bhagavata, considered as the primary Vaishnava texts. And in Buddhist writings, Krishna is mentioned as Kanha. The Khada Jatakas gives an account of Krishna's childhood, corroborating his childhood mentioned in the Harivamsha, Vishnu Purana and Bhagavata. Jains have an elaborate system of ancient patriarchs, and it includes Vasudevas and Baladevas in the city Dwaravati. And Arthashastra of Kautilya, which is 4th century BC, says Vasudeva was worshipped as a supreme deity. Patanjali in his Mahabhashya mentions about Krishna and his brother Sankarshana, that is Balarama. An inscription about the worship of Krishna with Balarama, Pratyumna and Aniruddha and Samba is found in Mora near Mathura, and it is dated to 1st century BC. Panini mentions Vasudeva Krishna, Arjuna, Nakula, Kunti and others in his grammatical works. And you have a lot of characters in Mahabharata not directly related to Krishna, like Vichitra Virya is mentioned in Yajurveda, Kataka Samhita, and Shikhandi Yajnaseni, that is Shikhandi, is mentioned in Kaushitaki Brahmana. Then Janamejaya, that is the grandson of Abhimanyu, and Abhimanyu is Krishna's sister's son, and they are mentioned in Aitareya Brahmana. Parikshit, who is Abhimanyu's son, revived by Krishna, and he is mentioned in Shatapada Brahmana, and Atharva Veda also mentions about him. coming to archaeological evidence, we have a discovery of Krishna's Dwaraka by S.R. Rao, and it is based on the underwater excavations since 1980s. It is detailed in his book The Lost City of Dwaraka, which is published in 1999. And what we get from there is a submerged township which was discovered off the coast of Gujarat near the modern city of Dwaraka and Bet Dwaraka. And the identification seals of the Dwaraka city issued to all the citizens of Dwaraka as per Harivamsha, which is mentioned in Harivamsha, was found in this submerged city. So now let us discuss about the historicity of Yadavas. So I am here expanding the works of Srikant Talagiri, who has written 3 books: AIT Area Appraisal, Rigveda Historical Analysis, Rigveda and Avestan, the Final Evidence. So his basic thesis is that there is these 5 tribes, Puru, Anu, Drahyu, Turvasa and Yadu, who are ancestral to all the Indo-European language speaking people, and they originated in a territory between Ganga in the east and Sarasvati in the west, and that means it is the Kuru territory as per the definitions in Mahabharata and other epics. That territory is the Kuru territory. So according to him, the Purus are the original Indo-Aryans who authored the Vedas, whereas the Indo-Iranians can be identified as Anus, who have migrated from the homeland in the Kuru territory and then went to Iran. And then there are the Drahyus who have migrated even farther, and most of the Europeans who speak various Indo-European languages can be considered as originated from the Drahyu tribes. And then there are the Turvasas and Yadus, and the Yadavas are actually derived from the Yadus, who have migrated south to the south and populated the southwestern India. And the Turvasa tribe, Turvasa people, they have, some of them went along with the Yadavas, and others migrated westward, reaching this Turkey and Europe. So this is the basic thesis of Talagiri, and I am expanding on it, showing that the Danavas in the Iran, they split into the Avestans, who stayed back in Iran, and the Danans, who are mentioned in the Greek epics like Iliad and Odyssey. And I identify these 2 people with the Daityas and the Danavas, because the Avestan literature, the Vendida, the Yasna, the Yest, all of them speak about the Daitya river, in which the authors of the Avestan literature have lived, and that is one of the sacred river for them. Whereas the Greek heroes like Agamemnon, all of these people are mentioned as Danans, and they are originated from their matriarch named Danu. And the Daityas, the Daitya word is derived from the word Diti, so they are actually originated from the matriarch Diti. So I talk about this because these Daityas and Danavas are mentioned as fighting with Krishna, and Krishna defeating them in his childhood as well as in his younger ages. And I also have a concept of Ailas, who are actually the ancestral to all these 5 tribes, starting with goddess Ila, and then Pururavas, Ayus, Nahusha and Yayati. And before these Ailas, you have the Adityas, who are actually mentioned as the gods in Rigveda. Now let us explore the Krishna city Dwaraka, and based on the excavations of S.R. Rao, he concludes that it is just one of the Harappan cities. So in this slide you can see red dots, which are all the Harappan cities, or the Indus Valley or Indus Sarasvati civilization centers excavated so far, and Dwaraka is just one of them, which is shown in a yellow color. And when you look at the geographical expanse of the civilization that is has been excavated archaeologically, you see that it's spread around 2.5 million square kilometer from uh, like in the Makran coast of Balochistan to Alangirpur in the east in Uttar Pradesh, and from Bursa, in somewhere in Kashmir to Daimabad in Maharashtra. So it's a very long, very large kind of expanse, almost like the entire southeast, the northwest India is covered in this area. And the time period of the Harappan culture, if you look at it, is from 8000 BC, 8000 BC to 1300 BC, and that is the period in which the Mahabharata war can be dated. So when you look at all this together, then you understand that this entire epic called Mahabharata is basically which involves Krishna in Dwaraka and then the Pandavas in Indraprasth. So this is basically reflecting this particular archaeological excavation of these Harappan cities. In fact, one of the highly concentrated region is the Kuru territory where the Harappan cities are excavated, and you can also see Krishna's Dwaraka, and that area is also highly concentrated. So this slide is about the Vrindavan and Mathura where Krishna lived, which is lying on the banks of river Yamuna. And in this map where you can see the Kuru territories and the Panchalas to the east, Salva to the west, Matsya to the south, Surasena to the south, Trigartha to the north, and then you can see Kamika and Dvaitavana to the west of the Kuru region. And Vrindavan and Mathura falls in the Surasena kingdom to the south of Kuru, and it lies on the banks of Yamuna. And they can still be seen as such without any change. Yamuna is there, Vrindavan, Mathura, none of them have changed their names. So the historicity of these places cannot be anyway refuted. There is no question about their historicity. And you can also have this interesting fact that the IE dispersal scenario which I have talked in the last slide tells about Yadavas migrated from the Kuru territory or this northern region to south and southwest. So that fits very well with Krishna's migration from Mathura to Dwarka. So it is one of the several instances in which the Yadavas migrated from their ancestral northern regions to the southwest. Now let us talk about Kurukshetra. Because dating of Kurushetra is one of the important factors in dating of Krishna. So Mahabharata defines Kurukshetra as the land between Sarasvati in the north and Vrishabhati in the south. And it is the land between the four corners, which is Tarantuka, Arantuka, the lake of Rama, which is Samanta Panchaka, and then Shama Chakra. And it is a sacred plain of Kuru king where he has used it for cultivation. It's highly populated with a lot of holy sports along the southern banks of Sarasvati. It is mentioned as the place of many ancient battles, not just the Kurukshetra War of the Pandavas. All the Devasura battles, which in hindsight is the Vedic versus Avestan conflicts, all of them are actually fought in Kurukshetra. There is a battle of Devas and Varuna mentioned in Kurukshetra. The battle of Kartikeya, that is Subramanya versus Daitya Taraka, it happened in Kurukshetra. Battle of Bhargava Rama and Bhishma, it happened in Kurukshetra. Then the battle of Chitrangadas, the Gandharva Chitrangada and the Kuru king Chitrangada, they battled in Kurukshetra. And last we hear about the Kurukshetra War of the Pandavas and Kauravas. It is also a place of astronomical observations. Like many places like Gargasrota, Kurukshetra and Samanta Panchaka are known for astronomical observations and astrological rituals. It is also a place of pilgrimage with many pilgrim sites like Sapta Sarasvata, Vasishta Pravaha, Brahmayoni, and then Ramatirtha, Samanta Panchaka. All of them are like holy spots. It is a place of asylum and hermitages of almost all the sages sacred to dharmic tradition like Bhrigu, Shukra, Brihaspati, Vasishta, Vishwamitra, Vyasa, Shuka, Devala, Bharadwaja, etc. It's a locale of the place where the Varuna, Indra, all the Adityas, Kaurava, the Kubera, that is Yaksha Kubera, Vaishravana, then Skanda, that is Kartikeya, then Yayati, Bhargarama. All of these people are mentioned as either living in this region or doing battles here. Okay, let us now talk about the controversial question of dating of the Kurukshetra War of the Pandavas. Now we have a lot of dates starting from 5000 BC to as late as 950 BC. So I'm starting it in a kind of a chronological order. So Dr. P.V. Vartak placed Lord Krishna's birth at around 5561 BC. A.K. Bensal calculated it as 3228 BC. Then there's B.V. Raman. He has stated it to be around, that is the Krishna's birth around 3228 BC. All of these are actually can be rejected because they don't fit to many factors that we are considering for the dating of the Kurushetra War and the birth of Krishna. So you have some dates like from Hole, that is starting at 3143 BC as a date for the beginning of the Kurushetra War, and Narahari Achar, who is one of the important person who has studied the dating of Kurushetra War based on archaeoastronomy and other factors. He is putting a date of 3139 BC for the war, and we have a traditional date of 3138 BC, which is 36 years before the Kali Yuga start and death of Krishna in 31302 BC. So that is a traditional date because it is calculated by Aryabhatta in 400 CE. Which is being considered as a traditional date, even though Dr. Else considered it as a pseudo-traditional date. Then Balakrishna concludes the date of 2559 BC using consecutive lunar eclipses. Dr. S.R. Rao, based on the archaeological findings in underwater city of Dwaraka and other Harappan cities, gives a date between 1900 BC to 1700 BC to the Kurukshetra War. And Dr. Elst supports Rao's dates and put the sinking of Dwaraka at 1500 BC. And then you have Srikant Talagiri placing the war at mid second millennium BC, which is again around 1500 BC, based on his analysis of Rigveda and Avesta. All these people consider the presence of the chariot as an important factor in deciding the date of Kurukshetra War, and also archaeoastronomy based accuracies like conformance to archaeoastronomy, which is available at around 1500 BC as well as at close to the traditional rate of 3138 BC. And then you have some other datings like Iyengar concluding it as 1478 BC using double eclipses and Saturn Jupiter conjunctions, which is again archaeoastronomy. And you have rejectable dates of R. Shankar's 1298 BC and Dubé's claims of war happening at 950 BC, mostly based on Aryan invasion theory. Yeah, this slide I have taken from another research which I am doing. Basically, the tracing of Balrama's pilgrimage along the river Sarasvati, which is mentioned in Mahabharata, ninth book. So it's the importance of this particular travel narrative is that it accurately describes the Sarasvati river as a partially dried up river, and this particular information is the highest concentration of geographical and geological information on the dried up Saraswati, which you can find in Sanskrit literature. So this when you analyze this particular travel narrative, you find around 35 different locations, starting with Dwaraka and then going to places like Vinashana, where the river Saraswati is invisible because it's dried up, and you actually get know about a lot of places on the banks of Saraswati in the Kuru region, where a lot of almost all large percentage of these places, 35 places, falls in that region, which is highly densely populated. And on the northern banks you have Kamyaka and Dvaita forests, and in the south of the Saraswati you have a lot of pilgrim places populated by people. And archaeology of this area also shows that the southern banks of Saraswati was highly populated, and a lot of cities were excavated in these towns and cities like Birana and Rakhi Garhi. All of these were excavated in this region. So it's actually, the narration completely fits with whatever archaeologists found out and whatever geologists have found out on the partially dried up Saraswati river sometime around 1900 1700 BC. Identification of Avestans or the Zoroastrians as Daityas. This is a very interesting topic. See, the Daitya or the Daitya, which is a noun mentioned in 20 times in the Vendidad and 9 times in Yest and 2 times in Yasatas, all of these Avestan texts. Daitya river, or the river of Aryana Veja, one of the 16 lands of the Ahuras, the original, which mentioned as the original homeland of the Avestan people. So the Ahuras is actually a rendering of Asura in Sanskrit, which is when rendered in Avestan it becomes Ahuras. The Avestans shared a common territory with the Vedics. For example, the Aryana Veja is identifiable with the cold regions, the Airavata regions in the Kashmir, northwestern frontier provinces in Pakistan, to the north of Iravati or the Ravi river. The Daitya river is identifiable with Vitasta or Sindhu in Kashmir. And then there is mention about as Subdha, another one of the 16 lands, which is identified with Sumandala, which is the fertile plains to the north of Kurushetra. Then it talks about Mauru, which is a dried up region, and it is straightly identified with the Maru region, which is the Thar desert to the south of Kurushetra. Then it talks about the four-cornered Varena, which is one of the 16 lands of the Zoroastrians, identifiable with the four-cornered Kurukshetra. Harahvati, another place mentioned, is identifiable with Saraswati. Hapta Hindu, identified with the Sapta Sindhu, which is Punjab. So and this Hapta Hindu is the name which has given rise to the word Hindu and finally India. And you have it not only stops at that. The Avestans worship almost all the deities mentioned in the Rig Veda with a different pronunciation. For example, Yama as Yima, Vivasvat as Vivanghat, Mitra, then Aryaman as Aryaman, etc. The only one god they are having enmity, which is Indra. So Indra is an enemy mentioned in all these Avestan texts. And Avestan book Vendidat is a short form of Videvadat, which means against the gods, against the Devas. And you have slight variations, like the Manu's flood mentioned in the Vedas become the Yamas or Vedic Yamas escape from the flood. And you have Ahura Mazda or Ahura Medha, who is mentioned as the supreme deity of the Asuras, which it can be identified with Hiranyakashipu in the Vedic Puranic text, because the Hiranyakashipu is mentioned as considering himself as the one and only one god, like what is described in about Ahura Mazda in Avesta. And Hiranyakashipu is mentioned as destroying the Deva worshipping people the Deva worshippers, which is the same position we can find in Avesta. The Ahura Mazda orders his followers to destroy all the Deva worshippers. So the Hiranyakashipu is also mentioned as doing the same. He even tried to kill his own son Prahlada, who was actually in favor of worshipping the Vedic gods as in the Vedic tradition. Now the identification of Danans, that is the Greek heroes of Iliad and Odyssey, and the Irishmen as the Danavas. This is again a interesting topic. So why I say is because the Danan as a noun is repeated 114 times in Iliad, 10 times in Odyssey. And the Greek heroes who sacked Troy, like Achilles, Patroclus, Antiochus, Agamemnon, Ajax, all of them are described as belonging to the Danan tribe. The river names Don and Danube in Europe is derived from the matronymic Danu, the mother of the Danavas. The Irish goddess named Danu is having that they don't know what is the origin of this goddess, but again in Vedas Danu is mentioned as the mother of the Danavas. And you have the concept of Tautada Danan, the people or the tribes of the goddess Danu in Ireland. And you have Brigus described as the priests allied with the Danavas in Itihasa Puranas. For example, Usanas or Shukra, who is a priest of the Danavas. Then the wife of Brigu is mentioned as Brigi. And you have a kind of a goddess named Brig or Brigid described as an Irish goddess belonging to the Danan. It's not just the name, similarity in the name, but even the characteristics you have similarities. And you have the Phrygia, the Anatolian kingdom in Turkey, which is having some kind of a connection with the Brigus. The Danans described in the Greek literature, they consider Danu as their mother. So all of this connected together, you get understanding that the Danavas mentioned in the Puranas and Itihasas are none other than the Danans described in the Iliad as heroes, as well as later the Irishmen who has migrated to the farthest part of the Europe. Symbolism of the Nagas, Yadus and Purus in the Sarasvati civilization or the Sindhu Sarasvati culture. So you can see a lot of symbolisms of these tribes mentioned in Sanskrit literature like Nagas, Yadus and Purus in the excavated artifacts of the Harappan cities and the settlements. For example, the Naga symbolism is the Kundalini, that a coiled serpent, which is found in these artifacts. Yogic postures, which is again a Naga symbolism, is found in SSC. Yadu symbolism, you can see the identification seals like those in Dwaraka given to citizens as symbols of citizenship, much like the passport of today, which is mentioned in the Harivamsha of Mahabharata, again found in the artifacts. The Puru symbolism, for example, the bulls. The Purus heroes are compared to bulls in Mahabharata. Example, Bharadarshaba, which is found, again, bulls are prominently found as a symbol in IBC Indus Valley culture. Elephants, for example, the Kuru had their city named Hastinapura, which is named after the elephant. And it is again the elephant symbolism is found in the Harappan cities. So we can say the SSC area, Sindhu Saraswati cultural area, was inhabited by this multicultural ethnicity consisting of the Nagas, Kurus and the Yadus, who have shared kinship alliance as well as some kind of conflicts. Now let us explore the relationship of the Nagas, Kurus and Yadus, because a question may arise that the Nagas and the Kurus or the Yadus were all in conflict, and it is not fitting with the concept of Naga, Puru, Yadu based ethnicity of the IBC culture. Again, we may find a revival of AIT theories and such conflict theories, where one tribe fighting with another tribe and resulting in the destruction of the Harappan city. So in order to avoid that, I have studied the entire relationship of all these ethnicities. So you find kinship, alliance, and of course internal rivalry and hostility. So when you say kinship, for example, Nakusha was the Naga ancestor of the Yadus and Purus. Bhima's maternal grandfather was a Naga. Arjuna's wife Ulupi was a Naga. And the sage Astika mentioned along in connection with Janameja, his mother was a Naga. Then Balarama is often mentioned as a Naga. Then you have alliances, like for example, the Nagas allied with the Purus against the Anavas, based on the analysis of Vendidat, where it mentioned about a chief called Ahasidahaka or Ahidashaka or Naga, and they allied with the Devas and fought against the Anavas at Kurukshetra or Varena, which is mentioned in Vendidat. Then there is a Takshaka Indra alliance against Arjuna, which is again an indication of how these alliances can change depending upon context. You have internal rivalry as well. For example, Naga Suparna sibling rivalry mentioned in the Puranas are example of internal Naga rivalry between the subsects of Nagas. And you have a hostility, like for example, battle of Arjuna with Naga Takshaka at Khandava, murder of Parikshit by Takshaka, murder of Nagas by Janameja, Yada Nagava conflict in Yamuna, which is described in Krishna's stories related to Krishna. So it is the kind of a composite culture which, like anywhere when people coexist, you have kinships, alliances and hostility. So I have described this to tell that people should not highlight the hostility alone and get into some wrong conclusions. Now I have put up a slide on this Dwaraka and Manu's Flood, which is actually part of another research, but I just put it to describe about the bathymetric studies which has been done in the Dwaraka region. So from Mahabharata itself, you get to know that Dwaraka was formerly known as Kushasthali, and this Dwaraka Kushasthali island, the region has submerged and re-emerged not just once but more than 3 times. At least 4 times, 3 times it is mentioned clearly in Mahabharata, that is, it has submerged and re-emerged. So when archaeologists try to find out and date the excavated Dwaraka, they have to consider this particular fact as well. So I have also put some points. So for example, last glacial maximum (LGM) was at 24,500 BC, and sea level maximum was achieved at 19,000 BC, and deglaciation in Arctic, which has occurred in 17,000 BC, and in Antarctic at 12,000 BC. So you comes to a point, like for example the 12,500 BC time period, where the domestication of various types of plants and animals evolved worldwide in this period, and this can be identified as the start of Rita Yuga based on the Markandeya Yuga definition, which is found in the third book and 197th chapter of Mahabharata. So according to this, Rita Yuga is 4,800 years, Treta is 3,600, Dwapara is 2,400, and Kali is 1,200 years. The total of 12,000 long Chatur Yuga. And one ascending yuga plus one descending Chatur Yuga, this Chaturgi Yugas, it becomes close to 24,000 years, and which is approximately the period of precession of equinox, and with its current value of 25,772 years. And the traditional value also is there for it, which is 360 multiplied by 72, which is 25,920 years. And this is codified in the Rigvedic hymn about Kala Chakra, which is found in the book 164 hymn in stanzas 2, 3, 5, 11 and 48. There is an abrupt rise of sea level which is recorded at 12,000 BC, which is also recorded at 10,000 BC and 8,000 BC based on bathymetry and geological studies. The coastal region of Indian Peninsula submerged into the sea in these periods. Landmass from Gujarat to Kerala and from Bengal to Lanka submerged gradually in this period. So the migration into inland areas like Kerala and then Pandya in southern Tamil Nadu, which is described in the Tamil text. And then there is the Manu, who is mentioned as a king of the Dravidas. He is mentioned as a king of the Dravidas in the Sanskrit text. Manu is also mentioned as escaping flood and bringing his people from the flooded lands, reaching up to the Himalayas. So this can be correlated with the 7000 BC settlements in Mehragar, and then there is a Birana settlement in Haryana, which is also somewhat 7500 BC. So all of this can be connected, and if you combine all these things, you get that there was a population migration from the coastal region to regions to the foothills of Himalayas, which is the basis of the Vedic, Puranic, and Itihasic episode of Manu's Flood. Now I have made an attempt of correlating the Markandeya Yugas with the archaeology. So this slide is about that. So based on my starting point of Rita Yuga 12,500 BC, descending in Rita Yuga, you had a Treda starting at 7,700 BC, Dwapara at 4,100 BC, Kali Yuga at 1,700 BC, and you have an ascending Kali Yuga starting at 500 BC, and Dwapara Yuga ascending at 700 CE, which is the current Yuga. So you can see that you have some kind of a correlation with what you can see in literature, as well as with the archaeology. So for example, the entire Rita Yuga period starting at 12,500 BC has to be considered as the time period of floods, because we know 12,500 BC there was a flood, 10,000 BC, 8,000 BC there were floods. So you can connect it with the Manu's flood in coastal India, especially the 8,000 BC flood. And you have this settlements like Birana, which is dated at 7,570 BC, then Mithatal at 7,500 BC, Mehragar at 7,000 BC. All of this falls into the Treta Yuga. And Rakhi Garhi, which is 4,600 BC, and the early Harappan 3,300 BC to 2,600 BC, the mature Harappan at 2,600 BC to 1,900 BC. All of this will be falling in the Dwaraka region. So Treta region is some kind of a village settlement kind of a period. Dwapara is something like a city life kind of a period. And then you have the Kurukshetra War dating at, if you go with Sarah's assumptions of 1,900 BC to 1,700 BC, it matches almost well with the end of Dwapara Yuga era. And even you can also even correlate the Kali Yuga, which is starting at 1,700 BC, to the late Harappan 5 culture, which is 1,700 BC to 1,300 BC period. And 500 BC starting of the Kali Yuga ascending is something like well documented Indian history begins at 500 BC, so it correlates with that. And now the only problem is that we have to assume that currently we are living in an ascending Dwapara Yuga started at 700 CE, which is contrary to the popular belief that we are living in a Kali Yuga. So my proposal is that irrespective of the correlation accuracy, we can consider this Markandeya Yuga system with the 12,000 year length duration. It is very well suitable for describing the events happened in the Holocene period, which is starting something 12,500 BC. So it's a very good chronological time frame to connect all the geological and geographical events happening in this Holocene period. So that is my my proposal. In this slide, what I am attempting is reconciling the traditional dates and the archaeoastronomy. So the problem is faced when you are dating Rama. So the archaeology is inconclusive due to difficulty in excavating the densely populated sites in Uttar Pradesh. And but we have a lot of data points based on bathymetry and geology. So Lanka is not an island. It was not an island before 5,500 BC. And Lanka became an island post 5,200 BC after a breakup from Indian mainland. And archaeoastronomy date for Rama's birth is at 5,114 BC. So there is a correlation between this bathymetry as well as archaeoastronomy here at Rama's birth at 5114 BC. It could be a sky observation data recorded by linking it with the birth of the prominent hero, that is Rama. And there is a possibility of travel narratives of a sky watcher traveling to Lanka transposed to the hero. And for this is useful for the oral transmission and memory of this astronomical and geographical data. So that is a possibility. Or otherwise, Rama actually was born in 5114 BC, and his life was in a kind of village environment with not much of cities and chariot warfare. But as the story of Rama evolved, the later redactors added those embellishments, mention of chariots and city life into Ramayana. So that can be another assumption. And when you are talking about dating of Kali Yuga at 3102 BC, it also has to be like explained away as a sky observation of the there is a prominent astronomical conjunction occurred at that period. So to memorize that, it can be linked with the prominent hero Krishna, who was born in 1900 BC, but like associated with particular this 3102 BC date. That is a possibility. Otherwise, we have to go with the Achar's dating of 3139 BC, and then there are no conflicts. Then other consideration we have to take, we have to consider are, like, for example, the oldest possible date of chariot warfare. It will be like limited to 2500 BC, and Proto-Indo-European evolved by 4000 BC based on some conservative estimate, though the evolution is possible at 5500 BC, or very rarely to 7500 BC as well. But popularly it is considered as 4000 BC as the date of evolution of Proto-Indo-European. And the archaeoastronomy gives, besides this 3100 BC, another date of 1597 BC for the planetary conjunction. So there is two solutions for the equations. Even the scholars are having some questions. How can someone hailed as an incarnation who has done miracles be ever historical? Krishna's personality as a childhood and that at his prime is very different. Are they two different individual fused together? What is the period in history where Krishna lived? 3139 BC or 1700 BC or any other date? Who is Radha? Does she exist? Now let us talk about the interesting subject of Krishna's personality. I am talking about it because this can have a kind of influence on the historicity of Krishna. At least many researchers will be confused with the Krishna's personality before they venture into the like exploring the historicity of Krishna. So there is something related to Krishna and the Varna system that is being controversial. Like in the Bhagavat Gita, it says Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Avimam Vidya Kartaram Avyayam. So this has created a controversy. So it has to be understood on the backdrop of Krishna's own life as a Yadava. So it is like a lower in the Varna system. So the import of this particular verse, which says that I created the Varna system, and that doesn't implies that he is he is actually benefiting from that, and it is he has stressed the point that it is based on guna and karma. So maybe there existed a prevalent Varna system which was based on birth, and it was assertive on the birth part of and so Krishna wanted to modify that, and that is what reflected in this verse. So as per Krishna, the varnas, all the various varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, is all based on the guna and karma, and not based on the birth. And you can also see how he contrasts with others like Karna and Vidura. Krishna's job was almost similar to Vidura. Like Vidura was an advisor to Dhritarashtra, Krishna was an advisor to Yudhishthira and Yadava, king of Grisain. And Karna also, even though by birth like son of Kunti, he had to live Suda. Whereas Krishna, he was he was a Yadava, and he find no problem in becoming a Suda or the chariot driver of Arjuna. So there is a difference in the way in which Krishna looks upon Varna system. And then you have Krishna as a statesman, politician, and political reformer. So Krishna dethroned Kamsa and re-established the role of old king Ugrasena. He dethroned Dhritarashtra. Here actually the Dhritarashtra is old one, but he established a new king Yudhishthira, who is young. So it's all depends upon who is on the side of dharma. And then here was an advisory role to Ugrasena and Yudhishthira. He had this rancho diplomacy, he has done to many of the people who came to attack Mathura, like the Jarasandha and Kalayavana. So he just mainly focused on the safety of the people, not on the conflict. And then he re-established Yadavas of Mathura at Dwaraka, evading Jarasandha's attacks. And Krishna was a supporter of women as well. Like he was always in favor of equality of men and women as intelligent individuals. And the treatment of Panchali and the Pandavas, he had treated them in equal terms. And he was interacting with women to uplift them spiritually, and it by all means available, like brotherhood, friendship, either it Raslila or Maithuna or companionship or marital relationship. He interacts with the women and then uplifts them spiritually. And Krishna was also a philosopher, and it is evident from Gita discourse. And many people have no knowledge or not much aware about another discourse Krishna has made, which is described as the Anugita discourse, which is again a recollection of the Gita discourse, again given to Arjuna. Now let us talk about Krishna's relationship with women. So Krishna is mentioned as having many wives, but we should know that Rukmini was the Dharma Patni of Krishna and considered as at the highest level. And there are many texts describing Rukmini and Satyabhama as the two wives of Krishna, like Sri and Dhara. There is other references talking about Ashtabharya, which means Rukmani, who is from Vidarbha, Satyabhama from Dwaraka, Jambavati from Anartha, which is Gujarat, which is near the landmass near to Dwaraka. Then Kalindi is mentioned, who probably is somebody hailing from Mathura or Vrindavan on the banks of Yamuna. And you have Mitravinda, who is from Avanti, Nagnajiti from Kosala, Bhadra from Kaikaya, and Lakshmana from Madhra Desha. So these are the primary 8 wives of Krishna. And all of these wives basically they resulting from the, like for example, there is a Swayamvara concept, and subsequently the Swayamvara concept got corrupted, because of which the brothers and fathers of the princesses started marrying of them for political alliances without caring about the wishes of the brides. So in that cases, Krishna helped them to get free from this kind of Swayamvara, where there is no freedom of women. And there is also mention about this 16,000 women who were been mentioned as the wives of Krishna, but they are actually the women who were given protection and the status of Krishna's wife to honor them after the abduction of by Narakasura, so that they will, the fate of Sita will not be falling upon them. They will be getting a status in the society. And you have Gopikas, like Radha is mentioned as Krishna's soulmate, and she is the tantric pair of Krishna, like Shiva and Uma, Shankara and Uma, and shared Vedantic oneness with Krishna. And there are other Gopikas at different levels in their journey towards spiritual ascent and realization of oneness. Now comes Panchali, Krishna's best friend, and she also shares the name Krishna because she was darkish in complexion, like Krishna Vasudeva and Krishna Dvaipayana Vasa, the third Krishna. So we have a lot of people have doubts about the disrobing of Draupadi in Kurusabha, and how Krishna was able to magically give trust to her and save her from the humiliation. So we have to understand one factor here, that the humiliating women in public is equal to disrobing them, and respecting and recognizing them is equal to covering their nakedness. So that is probably what happened in Kuru Sabha. And Krishna Vasudeva and Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, both Krishnas, gave respectivity to Krishna Draupadi, Yajnaseni, that is Panchali, and they also gave sovereignty to the Pandavas. So Draupadi was thus can be considered as a spiritually empowered woman, and a symbol of intelligence, power, and resilience and resistance. And you have apart from Draupadi, there is a reference to Yogamaya, who is Krishna's own self in female form, like Mohini, like Mohini avatar of Vishnu. So she saved Krishna in infancy from the death by Kamsa. So again, people will ask, that is a magical thing, how it is possible to do. So basically, these are all like related to the consciousness theories. So when a person is continuously like thinking about another person, they are actually connected in a consciousness, in the plane of consciousness. So when Kamsa is constantly thinking about Krishna, Krishna was able to influence Kamsa through the conduits of consciousness, and he was able to project his own self as a Yogamaya, and then scare Kamsa. So that's what happened in that prison when Kamsa tried to kill the replacement of Krishna, which was a female infant. Then the female infant became showed up as a goddess and started admonishing Kamsa. So this happened because of this consciousness projection. So it's look like a miracle. And you have Subhadra, who is Krishna's beloved sister, and she was like unto Durga, and a symbol of warrior woman. Now let us explore Krishna's relationship with men. So the first comes the Pandavas. So Yudhishthira and Bhima was like an elder brother and but needing guidance. Arjuna was the best friend and soulmate, and Nakula Sahadeva was like younger brothers. Then Krishna re-established Dharma corrupted by Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra and the Kauravas. Bhishma and Drona had an understanding of Dharma, but it was old traditional concepts, and it was off the mark and not fitting to the current times. So that is what Krishna has fought against, this old notions of Dharma. Even Yudhishthira was actually entrenched in the old notions of Dharma, which Krishna has re-established. And Vyasa is Krishna's ascetic self, and Vyasa was a sannyasi and Krishna was a yogi. And this distinction and can be seen in Bhagavat Gita, where it talks about the difference between sannyasi and a yogi. And you have Balarama, who is Krishna's elder brother and a supporter. And Krishna has also got sons like Pradyumna, Charadeshna, Sudeshna, Samba, and others. Pradyumna has got a son called Aniruddha, so Krishna's grandson. What you see in this slide is Krishna seated in the Sabha of Yudhishthira, Emperor Yudhishthira, and in which all the kings of Bharatavarshas was present. And the Sabha was created by Danava Maya, who is an architect. And you can see Krishna seated in the Sabha along with others like Vyasa. So this is one of my a painting I have done on Mahabharata. I have put a slide comparing Rama Dasarathi versus Krishna Vasudeva. So this is required because a lot of people say that Rama was somewhat like a good person and Krishna is not so good. So let us explore that. So Rama exemplifies a newly established dharma, and Krishna is actually an establisher of new dharma. So it's like two legs on which dharma is marching forward. Rama follows rules to strengthen the established dharma, while Krishna breaks rules if needed to establish dharma. So you can see in this image, you can see Krishna is in the process of breaking one of his rules, and you can see Rama about to get into Lanka. So he's challenging this god Varuna. Many people also question Rama's how he treated Sita. So to understand it, we need to see the first verse in Ramayana, which says about an incident in which Valmiki saw a pair of two Kraunja birds, one of them shot and falling down, and the other bird was actually crying and feeling the loss of the dead bird. So when you look at Ramayana, like, you have to understand that Sita and Rama are like that Krauncha birds. That is what Valmiki has in his mind. And in case of life of Sita and Rama, it was the citizens of Ayodhya who was like the hunter, who shot an arrow. So they have shot an arrow of words, like accusing Sita of bad conduct or immorality when she was in Ravana's custody, and that have destroyed the relationship of the couple. And you can see Sita leaving, Rama, and leaving Ayodhya, and it's equivalent of the loss of the Krauncha bird who have been shot. And the rest of the life of Rama was like the other Krauncha bird who was mourning the death of his pair. So that way, if you understand, you can understand the whole of Ramayana. Now let us make an attempt to understand Krishna's philosophy, which is revealed through Gita. So I have taken a selected selected verses from Gita and classified it like something which describing the Sankhya or the Jnana Yoga, and then the difference between Sankhya and Karma Yoga, Sankhya, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga, and Krishna's idea of freedom, then Karma Yoga, and how Krishna treats others, even his devotees, and the concept of avatara, then Krishna's teaching of going beyond the Vedas. So on Sankhya, he's explaining it like this: Natvevaham jatunasam, natvam neme janadhipa, nachaiva na bhavishyamaha, sarve vayamatha param, dehi nosmin yada dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara, tada dehantara praptihi, tiras tatra na muhyati. So basically it explains that none of the people who was seeing around in the Kurukshetra War, or none of them are going to be destroyed anytime. They are all eternal. And all this concept of leaving a body and attaining another one, all of this, and all these stages like youth, old age, all of these are like illusions. So these are not to be of big importance. And then he compares Sankhya and Jnana, Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga. So like this: Lokesmin Divida Nishta, Pura Prokta Maya Nakha, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yogina. So for the Sankhya, is for the Jnana Yogis, and Karma Yoga is for the Yogis. And then he talks about freedom, and you can see it in the last 18th chapter. Idite Jnanam Akhyatam, Guhyat Guhyataram Maya, Vimarsyat Asheshena, Yada Chesi Tada Kuru. So basically it says, I have told you all of this, whatever I know, and I have imparted that knowledge to you. Now it's up to you whether you want to follow this, or you can do whatever way you want. So this is the kind of freedom which is the core of dharmic tradition. It is not dogmatic. It doesn't insist on something to be done exactly. It explains things to you, and then make you do whatever way you like, reflecting on whatever is being told to you. And you have the basic very popular verses for explaining Karma Yoga. Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hedurбhu ma te sangostu karmini. Then it is explained further Yajñarthat karmano anyatra logoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya muktas sangas samajara. So basically says ask the people to do their work, not much bothered about the outcome or the results, which is personally accrued to the person who is doing the work. It's not people must misunderstand. You can have you can anticipate the outcome, but not for you. It can be for the society, and all that you are doing it should be with the mindset of doing a yajna, which means you are doing it because of your nature. In your nature, you are doing it, and others are getting benefit out of it. Then he is in the 5th chapter. He says, "Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suradam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim richati." So he is stressing that he is like the Lord. He is like the divine principle behind everything, but he is also like a friend to all the people, to all the entities. And knowing this, people will be at peace. So the divinity is not like a dictator. The divine principle or God is not like a dictator. God is like a friend who interact with the people in their daily life. And it talks about avatara like in 2 verses. Ajopi san navyatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavamyatma mayaya yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So it says I am unborn, but I become I become the event sambhavami, like I become the like event means it includes space and time, so he become part of the space time. That's what he is saying. It is an eternal principle which becomes part of the space time, which means that he becomes like part of the universe. Again it is repeated, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So the purpose why this is happening is because to uphold dharma. That is the reason why it is happening. Because dharma is not it's actually having a framework. It is all coming from the basic structure of the universe. Because from Rita is the basic structure of the universe, from which dharma is emerging. So whenever dharma is actually an attribute of the universe itself. So that is why when dharma is having a kind of like a dominion, then the divine principle comes and restores it. Then there is an interesting verses about going beyond the Vedas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunya Bhavarjuna Nardando Nitya Sattvasto Griyoga Kshema Atmavan. Again he says Sudhi Vipradipannate Yadastasati Nischala Samadho Vachala Buddhi Tada Yogam Avapsyasi. So basically it's just people to go beyond what is described in Vedas. Because Vedas basically are related to the 3 gunas, and you have to go beyond that. Again, you have to be going beyond the Shruti or the Vedas, so that you reach yogic state. Okay, here comes the final part. That now we are ready to answer the misconceptions of related to Krishna and his personality. So Krishna is an avatara. How can he be historical? That is the primary question that both like ordinary people as well as scholars ask. So avatara means descent. When a spiritually realized person descends to the level of ordinary people to uplift them spiritually, it is called avatara. So avatara is descending, and when you go along with the avatara purusha and you ascend, that is uddhara. So that is it's like a hook, like the spiritually empowered person make the avatara or descent, and you go along with them upwards. That is the ascent or uddhara. Now so this doesn't pose any kind of historicity problems related to Krishna. Now since Krishna is a human, how can he be worshipped as a god? In dharmic traditions there is no boundary between human and divine. The humanity and divinity they are actually combined, and there is no kind of a boundary between when a person becomes human and when a divine becomes human. So that is why in Hindu tradition you have guru worship and ancestor worship, and then naturally it follows that Krishna was both a guru and an ancestor, so he can be worshipped. Even we have to see that the Vedic gods described in Rig Veda, they might have all started as ancestors, like warriors who are fighting against the enemies and all. But also spiritually enlightened, because they were all associated with ascetics. And so, on account of being an ancestor as well as like a spiritually enlightened people, they become worshipped as gods. So we have Indra, Varuna, Mitra, all of these divinities. Then is Krishna's contact with Gopikas correct? So here we have to understand it by exploring the spiritual undercurrents that is part of these episodes. Like if you can get it by reading Gita, Govinda, and other works describing Krishna's relationship with Radha and other Gopikas. So if you look at from the modern perspective of all this internet, and so you get a lot easily confused. For example, in Kundalini Yoga, there is a concept called ascending from the Swadhisthana chakra to Anahata. So here what you happen is that the sexual energy vibrations, which are very active when you are at a state of Swadhisthana, they become transformed into love, cosmic, like a universal love kind of a vibration. So this is happens to all the ascetics and sages who are actually engaged in tantric practices, or who are yogis and yoginis. So this is what actually happens in Krishna's interaction with the Gopikas and Radha. So it is all like a part of the spiritual ascent, spiritual upliftment. So we have to see all of this in that light. Now Krishna has 16,108 wives. Some say 16,008 wives. So how is it possible? So we have already seen the wives of Krishna, Rukmani, then Rukmani and Satyabhama as a dual pair. You have Ashtabharyas, and then this 16,000 wives. They are actually the women released from the confines of Narakasura, and you can, for example, read Sai Sarupa's, my friend Sai Sarupa Iyer has written novel Abhaya, which contains more insights on this. Krishna was engaged in establishing dharma, which involves uplifting of both men and women. So it was not only for the Pandavas and Yudhishthira, it was also for women like Draupadi, Radha, Rukmini, and all the other people. So Krishna uplifted women held captive under the patriarchy, like fake Swayamvaras and then this Narakasura's fold. So he actually uplifted from the exploitation, violence, and aggression, and tried to spiritually empower them. Again, there is this question: why did Krishna stole the dress of Gopikas, but he chose to help Draupadi by covering her body with dress? So basically, if you read Gita, Govinda, and other such works, you can clearly understand that Krishna removed the body consciousness of Gopikas as a starting point of their spiritual upliftment. That is what happened in Vrindavan. And you can see why Krishna wrapped Draupadi to protect her honor and defend male aggression upon women. So some people have questioned, is it physically happened? So there again, I'm repeating it again, that acknowledging and asserting a woman's dignity socially is equal to covering the nakedness of a woman, and humiliating her in public, like what Dushasana, Duryodhana, and Karna has done, that is equal to disrobing her. So the Kauravas disrobed Draupadi by humiliating her in public, and Krishna has covered her by asserting her dignity. And even the whole Mahabharat war was actually part of this asserting of the dignity of Draupadi. Otherwise, also in every part of the life, Krishna has asserted the dignity of Draupadi and many other women. Another example being giving the status of a wives to the woman abducted by Narakasura, so that situation that Sita had to face as per Ramayana is not occurring to them. Now, Krishna was a naughty in his childhood teens, but revealed as a great philosopher, imparting Gita. How is it possible? So people explain it like a split personality. That there was one hero in Vrindavan and another hero in Dwaraka. So somebody who were reading all these Sanskrit text has combined them both, but that is not necessary, because again we also know from this Indo European migration theories, especially the OIT 3 from theory by Talagiri, that there was indeed a migration that has happened from Mathura to Dwaraka. So there is no need of explanation based on multiple personalities combining together and all to explain Krishna. And Krishna is mentioned as doing many magical things in childhood, like lifting of Govardhan mountain. How can it such a thing be historical? So here actually I have written a lot about this kind of poetic exaggerations in my website Ancient Voice. Here actually we can explain it like what was Krishna doing was uplifting the merit of Govardhan mountain. He said the Govardhan is actually the supporter of the people of Vrindavan, compared to Indra, who is a divinity supposed to be raining, giving rains. But it was because the clouds were stopped by Govardhan and condensed, and that is what causing rain. So it was something like ecological knowledge that Krishna was imparting to the people of Vrindavan, and he uplifted the merit of Govardhan mountain. So some artist or some poet has described it as like lifting Govardhan mountain itself. So that is what happened. So there is no problem in the historicity of Krishna here, because it's all poetic exaggeration. Now, the actual writing of Krishna's life, yes, that is an important thing, and the scholars are debating on it, and it will take us some time to settle on an exact date. But the idea of Krishna as a yogi who has attained spiritual oneness and descended to uplift others spiritually is beyond space and time. Thus, we have reached the conclusion of this talk. So, we have seen the historicity of Krishna is irrefutable because of all the evidences, literary evidence and archaeological evidences, and the evidence of historicity of things related to Krishna, like Dwaraka, Mathura, Vrindavan, Yamuna, Balarama, and Pandavas. So we have no doubt about the historicity of Krishna, and we have also tried to enlighten and dispel some of the misconceptions about Krishna, and especially in impacting the historicity of Krishna. Like for example, Avatara, we have shown that it means descent. When a spiritually realized person descends to the level of ordinary people to uplift them spiritually, it is Avatara. Krishna was a spiritually enlightened individual who has realized oneness with the universal consciousness. Hindu Dharma doesn't make any boundary between divinity and humanity. Hence, a human can be worshipped. A human who has attained oneness with the cosmic consciousness can be a guru, who can provide self-realization and can be worshipped. Gurus and ancestors are worshipped in dharmic tradition, so there is nothing wrong. Like Krishna, being a human, can be worshipped. Krishna's relationship with men and women had the sole agenda of uplifting them spiritually, to help them ascend. The seemingly childlike and erotic activities of Krishna had a spiritual undercurrent. Krishna was a yogi, and yoga includes karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, hatha yoga, tantric yoga, and many other forms of yoga. And yoga means union, so it involves physical, mental, intellectual, or spiritual union, and basically it involves union with a higher principle. So thank you for your patient listening. We are concluding this talk. Thank you.